Hi guys, this is Audrey Unverfurth and Avita Duffy at the Federalist. This week we witnessed much more campus craziness. Faculty at the University of Oklahoma were teaching each other how to silence and punish problematic conservatives. They think that they have the right to tell students what they can and cannot say in the classroom, and that they have the right to silence speech they don't like. And that's actually not the case. That's totally unconstitutional and wrong. But one instructor said at a workshop on April 14th that as an instructor, she thinks she can tell her students, no, you do not have the right to say that. Stop talking right now. And she and some of her colleagues worked together to teach others how to promote groupthink and how to steer students toward the correct leftist script and to avoid problematic questions, such as questions about whether it's okay for Black Lives Matter to destroy property or questions about pronoun usage. These instructors at the University of Oklahoma don't want to have those types of conversations. They don't want to discuss controversial topics. They want complete control over what is said in their anti-racist, but actually quite racist classrooms. And I'm excited to be here today to talk about that with Avita.
Yeah, so I read this story and it was really incredible to think about. They're not even upset about just students talking about opinions and ideas that they don't agree with because they're not leftist. They are actually trying to deter students from listening to alternate perspectives. That literally, it's a quote where one of these workshop leaders says, in this case, she's a professor, I, in this case, usually look for my students who might be entertaining the idea of listening to a problematic argument. Then I say, we don't have to listen to that. And it's really, I thought that this story is so interesting because as college students, you and I both know, this is a voicing of what students across America are doing all the time. They just don't always put it into words. And so now we have them. We know exactly what they're trying to do. And it's really disturbing because the college campus is the place where you're supposed to, figure out who you are. You're supposed to be formulating ideas and being exposed to alternate perspectives. And that is clearly not the case anymore at the American University. So Audrey, I don't know if you have any experiences yourself with this kind of rhetoric in the classroom, but can you at all relate to what you've seen in the story?
I absolutely can. And I think you really hit the nail on the head because it's actually somewhat refreshing to hear these instructors just openly admit their tactics, because this is something that I've been hearing and experiencing for a long time, but it's rare to see an hour-long video with instructors openly saying, yes, we want to silence those we disagree with. Yes, we want to censor those who dare to think differently in our classrooms. That is a little bit shocking, and it's actually exciting to finally have evidence of how egregious these college classrooms have become. And just to add on a little bit to what the instructors were saying in the video, one even describes how her students do independent research projects in her classroom, but of course she tells them or helps guide them in the right direction toward what they can research and what they can ask. And that completely defeats the purpose, as Avita was already saying, of pursuing your own research and your own knowledge. And while I haven't had maybe such overt steering or redirecting recently, I felt that throughout my education in the last few years, it's consistently made clear to me that there is a narrative, there is the status quo that has been established by the left, and I'm expected to adhere to it. And it's really, really frustrating. I even wrote a paper this last year at the University of Chicago in which I made an argument I disagreed with, simply because I knew that in order to get a good grade in the class, in order to maybe even pass the class, I needed to regurgitate what my professor thought, and what my professor thought was controversial. I vehemently disagreed with it, but I had to repeat her narrative anyways. And that's really frustrating and sadly something that a lot of college students can relate to probably.
Yeah, absolutely. In my own experience, I think that something that wasn't touched on in this article, but I think is really a part of everything is the identity politics that happens in college, like in the college classroom. So I've been in classes where the teacher said, okay, I want all the men to stop talking right now, and I just want the women to speak. Or I've had friends who took, a class about racism in the United States, and he said that in his class, they specifically said, all the white people, you all need to be quiet for right now and just let the Black people speak. That is not normal behavior for a college classroom. Your identity should not decide whether you have the right to an opinion or the right to even participate in the college classroom. But that has now become commonplace, and it should be really frightening to everybody who cares about the integrity of an American education. And I think, I guess something else that I wish that we could talk about more is just what's happening on these college campuses. And I think that even having this discussion, there's just such a denial. Like we bring it up, you and I, all the time, because we both go to the University of Chicago, and people try to say this isn't true, this isn't happening, when it clearly is, and there are so many experiences like it, and this is actual proof of it.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. It's real proof of what students across the country are experiencing every single day, and it needs
taxpayer
to
funded too. Just so you know, like,
exactly.
even if they're private, a lot of times they still get taxpayer funded, dollars. So it's really disturbing.
Right. We're paying to indoctrinate each other, sadly, and ourselves, and it needs to end, because it's not a real education, and it's also extraordinarily divisive. So not only are students uneducated and unable to have real difficult conversations about important topics, but the type of tribalism and identity politics that Evita's already described is really tearing our country apart. It really tears students apart when you tell them, oh, because of your skin color, you can't say that, or because of your gender, you can't participate in this activity. Like, that is detrimental to how we interact with one another, and it's wrong. And ironically, the people who promote this type of racism and bigotry are the very same people who say, oh, we're crusaders against anti-racism, they support love, and that's actually not what they're doing. They're doing just the opposite.
I think it's intimidation is what it is. I mean, this is what this whole workshop was about. It's like, how can we intimidate students into not voicing their opinion, not exploring alternate ideas? That's what this is about. It's not even explicitly saying you can't talk about that. It's, why would you talk about that? Are you a racist? Are you homophobic? So it's really, it's complete and total indoctrination and intimidation. And it is not giving students the deserved education that they are going to need to prepare them for the real world, and honestly, that they are paying for, because we all know college is completely overpriced. So
exactly.
Well, thank you so much, Audrey. I'm glad that we were able to have this conversation. This is an important issue, and yet again, another example of campus insanity.
Definitely. It was so great talking to you. Thank you.